It was early in the morning, and Emily, a young woman, got out of bed in a quiet apartment on the top floor of an old building. She had to go to work that day, but something felt off. Strange noises echoed within the apartment, faint creaks and whispers, but when she opened the window, all she could hear was silence. Throughout the day, strange occurrences escalated, doors opened and closed by themselves. Objects shifted positions, and occasionally a cold draft would send shivers down her spine. Emily began to research the history of the apartment and discovered that the strange happenings had been experienced by previous residents as well. There were peculiar rumors surrounding the building's basement and its history as a former hospital. That night, she gathered her courage and decided to descend into the basement. As she descended the old wooden stairs, she could feel the pain that had been experienced throughout history. When she reached the basement, she found a complex maze-like structure with many old patient rooms and medical equipment. Suddenly, something in one of the rooms horrified her. There were bloodstains on an old patient bed, and in the corner of the room stood a pale figure that resembled a ghost. Emily recoiled in fear and attempted to quickly leave the basement, but something was following her. When she reached her apartment, she stopped in front of the door, momentarily holding her breath. However, the door suddenly shut and locked itself, and she could still sense something inside. She rushed to the window and began to scream for help. People gathered below, but they couldn't open the door. Something inside was getting closer, and Emily, without hesitation, jumped out of the window. She hit the ground with a scream and writhed in pain. After the incident, the apartment was vacated and the basement was forgotten. Once more, Emily continued to live with the terrifying memories of that day. However, the old hospital building where the incident occurred still held its dreadful secrets and seemed to be waiting for those with the courage to enter. Next story. Sarah, who had lived in a calm and quiet apartment for decades, began to witness strange occurrences in recent times. She heard strange noises at night. Her belongings moved around, but the most terrifying was her reflection in the mirror, sometimes avoiding looking at her. At first, she tried to rationalize these events. She said, "Maybe I'm tired, or perhaps this old building makes creaking sounds." However, the events grew increasingly eerie. One night, she saw shadows dancing around something lying in her bed and felt a chilling presence enveloping her. She had to gather her courage. She decided to descend into the basement of the building. Her research indicated that the building had once been used as a hospital, and the basement had been nearly abandoned, but she was determined to understand why these strange events were intensifying. When she descended into the basement, she saw the doors of old patient rooms. One of the doors was slightly ajar, and what she saw inside shocked her. There was a ghostly figure standing in the room, resembling a patient lying on a bed. With its eyes fixed on Sarah, the bed was stained with blood. Sarah recoiled in fear and tried to close the door, but the doors closed and locked by themselves. The ghost inside was still there. She rushed to the window and began screaming for help. People gathered outside the building, attempting to help her through the window, but they couldn't open the doors. Sarah could feel the ghost approaching, with tears in her eyes. She jumped out of the window and landed in pain on the ground. An ambulance arrived swiftly and took her to the hospital. Sarah survived, but she was never the same again. The apartment and the basement were abandoned, and this terrifying tale began to fade into obscurity.